Hello, for more so contains invest. We talk about investing, finance, and professionalism. For today's items only, the investment going to talk today will be Ethereum ETH. First, I want to say happy Thursday, buddy. Also, happy Thanksgiving to all the domestic folks in the US. Respective recording time of 10:07 a.m. on the Eastern time. Ethereum coin turned $4,499, up about 5.35% so far. As you can see clearly on the left corner of the crypto market, we're relatively healthily green today. And with respect to the equity market, as of yesterday, market closing, obviously with a half of a week this week on the equity market because of the Thanksgiving holiday that's durating this week. So it seems like on the investor sentiment, despite the early half of volatility, among investor sentiment, seems like we're kind of normalizing back into more of an applicable, kind of, I guess, palatable type of level. Still kind of trading on a sideways fashion if you compare that, stretch that out compared to the beginning of the week to the end of the week. So we have like a slight dip, a slight surge, and then kind of back to the normal type of cadence, right? So today, obviously, on the U.S. equity market, have no direct correlation into the crypto market. So it's just purely on obviously in the international side of the region, the stock market is still open. But there isn't any direct correlations based on my read on the news front so far. The surge that we're seeing across the spectrum right now is mainly coming from the media affectation side. And also the technical seems like is showing some signs of optimism as well, which we'll dive into in a bit. So let's just dive into the news first. First, just want to say happy Thanksgiving to all the folks in the U.S. again. Really appreciate you for dropping by. Firstly, I know it's a holiday, and secondly, for you guys to be watching my videos on a holiday when you guys should be spending time with your friends, it shows how diligent and how hardworking you are. Which is we all need to have that drive and that ambition to be successful. So that's something I appreciate that we all share that collective I guess, ambition and energy that we also have motivationally. So, with respect to the Bitcoin news and Ethereum news, I would say the first one is quite interesting. It's kind of a mixed signal with respect to Barron's about 1 hour ago. Talk about Ethereum and Bitcoin are rising, but India's crypto ban may not be so bad after all. So basically, what they're saying is that India has really not saying anything confirmatory so far with respect to the banning crypto. I know in selective part of India, they're actually using Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency as a form of transaction on a commerce perspective. Banning crypto seems like a relatively extreme level of execution. So I think what they're trying to say, in the optimistic side of the spectrum, is they're looking for regulatory infrastructure or some sort of compliance, dynamics that will be implemented onto crypto assets in India, and that will be a great contingencies onto the obviously the commercial adoptions and the corporate adoptions with respect to crypto assets, right? So this is not so bad. That's what they really mean. I mean, it is a media affectation. The title's kind of iffy, really, to be honest with you. But read it with a grain of salt. Ultimately, they have a specific point of view, right? And then next one's on Bitcoin. Is again 2 hours ago. Talk about the growth of crypto casinos in iGaming community. So it seems like there are some activities among obviously the online casinos, right? Which I actually played before. It's quite interesting. Sometimes you can make a lot, sometimes you could lose a lot. But that's why I don't really gamble. But it seems like Bitcoin or Ethereum or some other crypto assets is a form of payment now. So it seems like there's more growth or commercialization among using crypto assets to be to gamble as a form of assets. So that's quite interesting. The next one's on Decrypt up 3 hours ago. Talk about Morgan Stanley, with something we talked about yesterday. They're adding more grayscale Bitcoin shares with this recent discount that we're seeing so far. So something that we've learned about yesterday. So it seems like they're loading up, which shows you something about their action speaks a lot louder than obviously what they say, right? So that's something we appreciate. And the next one is on Cointelegraph about 5 hours ago. Talk about Bitcoin solidifies support at 58,000 as Bitcoin and Ethereum volatility hit a 7-month low. So we'll dive into the technicals in a bit. It seems like we are consolidating. I wouldn't say anything about solidifying because ultimately the whales are still in the higher in terms of ratio compared to public investors, right? I believe it's like 92 or 91% of the holdings of the entire market is driven by whales. So solidifying just means that the whales are not incentivized to sell anytime soon right now. So something we'll dive into to see with respect to the current pattern right now. Are we in the cup and handle or are we in the head and shoulder pattern? It seems like based on what we see so far, there's some sign of optimism, like I said already. And then the next news that I see here, excuse me, is with respect to Ethereum, like how much we've burned so far since the London hard fork, right? So it seems like there's been about 1 million of Ethereum that's been burned ever since the London hard fork that happened a couple months ago. So with that, supply and demand imbalance will drive obviously a more of an escalation in the price level going forward, right? And then the next one is Cointelegraph. So with respect to the Morgan Stanley news that we've heard yesterday and again today, it seems like their exposure is about $300 million in grayscale shares of the Bitcoin right now. So it's an okay size, not like a huge. I mean, it's a sizable for obviously individual investors, but for institutional investors, that's a good size. But Morgan Stanley, they're holding billions, and JP Morgan's holding trillions of assets under management. So 300 million is kind of a drop in the bucket, to be honest, in a relative perspective, but still shows some signs of obviously bullishness, based on just the action that we see so far, right? And then the next news that we see is on Christie's. So Decrypt depict an article on Christie's, which is that auction house. They are to hold Ethereum NFT on OpenSeas. So it seems like more commercialization among the auctioneer ecosystem, which makes sense, right? Because NFT commercialization and just NFT is kind of like an arts form as well. So. And then the last one's really talk about BlockFi, which is a transactional exchange app. They will change fees to cover Ethereum gas fee costs. So that's something that they implement into the economical structure. So that's something that will be a little bit more palatable for obviously the transactor, the investors that are using that platform, right? And the last one is really talk about the same thing that we talked about already with respect to 1 million of Ethereum burns, which was technically about $4.2 billion of Ethereum that was destroyed ever since the London fork debut. That was depicted on the Bazinga about 18 hours ago. So that's something we've already learned, right? So let's just dive into the technicals without stretching it even longer. A lot of news for some reason, despite obviously a Thanksgiving holiday, which is quite interesting that the media how they work is very mysterious to me. So with respect to the current level, we're up about close to 5% right now with the 54 out of 70. But something that we're seeing interesting is that we were at the bearish state for quite some time as we were sliding off the escalator or the slide, if you may. But it seems like we are slowly reversing, and seems like the MACD line is also slowly crossing up. So technically, this could be a cup and handle that's forming right now. And as we form and have more escalation with specific media affectation that's going to be driving it, or some sort of a macro factor that's going to be driving it, we're going to form a confirmatory golden cross. And as we form that golden cross, we know what's going to happen. We're going to breach all-time high. And I think if this is the bottom, right, what's been happening is basically we slide off, right, we consolidate, right? And as we consolidate, we stretch the RSI, which was something we have been doing. We got down all the way to 39 out of 70 at one point. And we've been just still kind of stretching it. We're at okay level, so in neutral level, 54 out of 70. So right now, as we drag up a little bit more, and we still have, a couple of days, until the weekend, until Monday, I wouldn't be surprised if we, obviously normalize back again to the 4250, right? And then we will have another surge. So you see some of zigzag triangle type of thing. But eventually you'll see that the MACD will start to fuse closer and closer together. That eventually they'll cross. And once they cross, we will have an upward surge. And I think that upward surge will be relatively healthy for us to go back up to the 70. And if this is the current bottom right now, we will see breaking all-time high all over again, which is the sustainable rally that we will be seeing in a foreseeable future. So something to look out for. But right now, is it confirmatory? I think we are slowly showing some, peak. But is the peak confirmed? Not yet, right? So we'll see. And the peak that we're seeing right now is mainly driven by all the positive news we've been hearing so far, right? So media can be a kind of a mixed signal sometimes. So something to watch out for. But in terms of like, if you want to buy it now just to hedge, I would say go ahead because we're at neutral level. We're not terrible right now, right? So something to think about. And with respect to Bitcoin as the next level, we're up 2.8% right now. Comparable to Ethereum, and it seems like the bottom is technically somewhere around like the 55. So yeah, not that far away from the bottom that we're seeing here as a resistance level. So it's 53. So we're technically like $5,000 away, which is not really a huge difference. But right now, we are. I would say the curvature of reversal is not as prominent as compared to like Ethereum. But we are at the neutral level again, right? So a good hedge is not terrible, right? So incurring some risk on Bitcoin and incurring some risk in Ethereum right now seems like quite interesting. And I would say in terms of Bitcoin versus Ethereum, I would say Bitcoin is a little bit less of a head and shoulder in comparison to Ethereum. This could technically be a cup and handle. If that's the case, we will search up to the next level, right? And ideally, if we search up, right, let's say today, this is like the bottom, right, at 46.31 out of 70. We will definitely break all-time high as we breach above 70 or even go to 90 on the RSI scale, and that would technically translate into somewhere around like the 85,000 to 90,000 to even 100,000 from here, depending on how severe we go up on the RSI scale. Dogecoin up about 2.23%. So right now we are, anywhere from 21 to 1950 is still the dip, right? I think right now it's not a terrible level to incur some risk on both Dogecoin. Cardano, we're reversing right now. It's quite interesting. Because we were oversold, right? We were at 158 at one point. And let's see if that makes any sense. 158. That made no sense. Okay, 158 is basically because of the fact of a flat number, 160, 150, and people thought that 150 was the dip, right? And also because of the RSI scale, we were really oversold, right? So that's why people were incentivized to buy. But I think we might come back down actually because 145 is the actual resistance level as the next platform. Solana right now, again, 133 to 113 is still the dip. We are still at the 50 on the 70, so it's not terrible, not the best either. XRP, the frame of 101 to 105 is still the dip, right? Based on our technical analysis, we know that it will be relatively tough for us to crack 101 because of $1 level, right? To crack to like the 93, that will be the next incentive to go down to. But we are relatively okay level, so not terrible. So XRP is actually a good buy, I would say. Anywhere from 101 to 105. Polkadot again, right at the 33 to 25 is still the dip, and I think that is logical based on the setup right now. Algorand, 160 to 152 is still the dip. I know some of you guys already got the dip earlier, like this week, right? Shiba Inu sell down to the, again, right, like the 2750 to the 900 still the dip, right? Based on the setup, it seems like we're just sliding off the cliff with no signs of reversal at the moment yet. And respect to the management level that we have identified here, ultimately these are not price predictions based on the current setup right now, right? Seems like we are, forming some sort of a mixed signal with respect to the technicals and the patterns, right? If this is a confirmatory signal with respect to the cup and handle for Ethereum, specifically. I think as we form that and then form that golden cross and we solidify based on the media front on the verbiage, we are technically in for a surge coming, which is something we appreciate. And this is relatively still non-confirmatory yet. Like we still need to watch out for, because of the fact that the MACD line is still kind of mainly driven by the momentum from the media front, not anything substantive, right? So we have to see how that's go. But ultimately, we're in the business of risk mitigation. So right now, the risk is not terrible either. So I think incurring some risk as a hedge for long term is not a terrible idea. Let's just put it that way. So really appreciate you for dropping by. Hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving as well. And stay tuned for some up. Take care. Bye.